Hi, this is AJ Myers, and this is my presentation on a professional setting. My professional setting is here, an undisclosed community college. And the population of people who I teach are adults, ranging anywhere from ages 17 to 100. My students have signed up for my class to hone their skills at creative writing. My class, which I titled Creative Expression, tackles several creative writing forms such as short stories, poems, essays, and several other creative means of individual expression. Traditionally, we'd envision a classroom such as this one to host creative expression, with the desks, the blackboard, and me, the instructor, up front. However, my class is online in a custom-designed, digital, easy-to-use environment, not too dissimilar from the Canvas system we use in our class. I believe that there are some benefits that come with teaching creative writing online, and I'd like to explore those a bit more. Regardless of subject matter, the online classroom gives my students flexibility to find times in their busy lives to engage their academic pursuits. For example, all weekly assignments are due on Sunday at the end of the class week at 11:59 p.m. This gives my students plenty of flexibility throughout the week to find time to complete any assignments and readings. Students will have a wealth of materials at their fingertips, all of which I make available in the online classroom in the resources page. Lectures, assigned readings, and videos of readings, as well as other media, will also be posted in a multitude of formats in the classroom. Despite the lack of a physical environment, my online class has lecture reflections, peer review, and optional group collaborations on some assignments as a means of fostering a classroom dynamic. Although it's usually assumed that adults do not enjoy learning digitally, studies have shown that they are just as eager to learn digitally as many other populations of students across the country. Now, let's discuss how my class is universally designed. Let's start first with the means of representation. For starters, all resources and materials are available on the online classroom and easy to access for all my students. I give it to them in multiple formats so they can use whichever one they are most comfortable with. As reading is an important part of this class, I give my students the options to seek out hard copies of any reading materials, as well as digital copies that are easily available in the online classroom. At the start of each week, I post a lecture video for my students to watch. The video is subtitled and is also transcribed with digital annotations to define important words. Furthermore, students are encouraged to comment and reflect on the lecture to drive conversation and interact with their fellow students. Because my lectures highlight critical information and big ideas for the week, its transcription is an important example of UDL in my class. The transcription provides hyperlinked definitions of important vocabulary, symbols, and syntax. Outside of just the lectures and the subtitles and the transcriptions, many of the readings that I offer my students will be offered in auditory and visual alternatives if they need it. Next, we'll explore action and expression within my classroom. Because students are online, it's important for them to set goals early to give themselves flexibility with their class. These are done with the digital writing journal and the final portfolio, which they know about from the first day of class. The digital writing journal serves several functions in this class. It is where the student and the instructor will interact, share grades, and post assignments. The digital journal is meant to be used as a means of monitoring the progress each student has made in this class. As the instructor, I'll use the digital journals as a way to monitor my students' progress throughout the class, as well as give them feedback on grades and writing assignments. In order to pass the class, students must compile a portfolio of 5 original works in any format or medium of their choosing. These will be shared online with the rest of the class, and I will be encouraging online interaction and discussions of the class regarding the posted works. Keeping in mind UDL options for expression and communication, the final portfolio gives students a chance to express themselves in any means of their choosing. The media they choose to present their portfolio works in can vary from written word to interactive song or video. As a fun bonus, I give my students the option to seek out, on their own time, a writing contest to consider submitting their final portfolio. This can help students set effective goal setting with their final portfolio, encouraging them to share it with the world, so to speak. In order to foster multiple means of expression in class, I need to give my students the tools to do so. Storybird is one of these tools, as it allows students to interact with templates that can inspire them to write however they feel. Of course, Storybird is just one of many tools and resources that I'll be sharing with my class. Often for assignments, I'll encourage students to use new mediums of expression. Next, we'll talk about engagement and how it works in my classroom. One of the best ways to gauge student interest with creative writing is simple: give the students freedom. They're free to write whatever they want to write about as long as it's in the format that we discussed in the lecture. I believe that students can engage with their creative sides more so on the online environment with its openness and ease, rather than the creative classroom where they might feel nervous about expressing themselves creatively in front of peers. A vital tool of self-assessment for each student is the digital writing journal that I previously mentioned. Besides instructor feedback, students can also monitor their ongoing progress in the journal, as well as flesh out new ideas to gain new goals. Assignments during the class offer the option for students to collaborate on an assignment together. Ultimately, the choice to work with a group each individual student. The portfolio also acts as a means for goal setting for each student throughout the class. As the assignments go on, students can determine which ones they want to add to their portfolio, or if they want to create new media for their portfolio. As the instructor, I may see myself more as a gentle observer, watching as my students set goals for themselves and try to improve their skills in creative expression throughout the class. And now we're going to examine how the principles of equity affect the learners in my online classroom. The first principle examines cognitive styles of individual students. Although my class does come with digital prerequisites, I can't assume that everyone's digital nearness to the computer environment is the same. As Hughes stated, this depends on how much exposure each individual student of mine has had, and I can't expect that to be all the same across the board. Those who do come to my class unfamiliar with the online environment might find it a little daunting, but I believe that my material and my easy-to-use online environment will give students a chance to have a good, new experience in an environment they're not too familiar with. Going off Hughes' concept of nearness, I believe that continued exposure to the online environment and the materials that I'll be offering my class will help foster creative growth within my students as my class goes on. Next, let's examine social class and structure and how it relates to my students' identity. Because my students come from a variety of backgrounds, I should not assume that all of them have had the same exposure and understanding of the online environment that my class offers. I need to make my environment as friendly to any user, regardless of experience. Keeping in mind Hughes' words about individual cultures versus group cultures, my class gives students the options to work either together with a team or individual on some assignments. This flexibility gives students a choice rather than forcing them to work with a group in a setting that might not be comfortable. Because my class is pretty much all online, I realize that this is another barrier that I've set up for my students, especially those who might be from marginalized groups that do not have access to the internet, or the elderly who do not have access at the same rate as the rest of the population, and who may make up my class. Next, we'll talk about the equitable principle of available resources. When students signed up for my class, seeing that it was online, they understood that there were going to be technical expectations coming in. However, I should not assume that resources are going to be the same for all my students across the board. Because not everyone might have the same resources, I believe that my class's flexible schedule gives my students an opportunity to pursue resources that might help them learn and engage with the material better. Access to the internet is vital for my class, but a laptop isn't the only means. It's also available in a digital format for the cell phone via an application. Next, we'll examine societal and cultural norms that will affect my students. According to Hughes, groups such as women have long been seen as consumers of technology rather than explorers or creators of it. That being said, I want to use my class as a chance for my students to become explorers not just of technology, but also of creative expression. Thus, I believe that students of all groups, of all genders, and of all ages can use my online experience as a way to find themselves and create themselves with full expression, whatever medium they choose. The amount of online engagement my students choose to do is entirely up to them, but I want them to use this opportunity as a chance to connect with classmates who might come from other cultural and social backgrounds that they are not familiar with. Now let us examine educational opportunities. Students who might not be super familiar with online learning can use my easy-to-use class as a chance to unleash their opportunities in the online environment. As previously mentioned, some students might be uncomfortable with the online environment. They can come to me, the instructor, or to the school with its immeasurable amount of resources regarding digital learning. Lastly, I would like to touch on how my class caters to students who might have disabilities. Because my class is in an online environment, students can access it from pretty much anywhere, as long as they have a connection to the internet via a cell phone or a laptop. I have UDL designed several materials in my class, most notably the video lecture, as well as a transcription of it that comes with. These are just a few examples of how I offer visual and auditory alternatives for students who might need them. Thus concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to all your questions and comments in the future.